Holy Matrimony, written by Andrew Adams and narrated by Chadwick Polson. Hi, honey. Dinner is almost ready. Relax and make yourself a drink. I'll have food out for you in no time. She greets him gleefully, the same way she does every evening when he gets home from work. Way ahead of you, he replies, walking over to their bar and making himself a drink, pouring a bourbon neat, no ice or mixers required. He throws the first one back, then pours another and sips it slowly while sitting down in front of the television set. It's ready, Tom. Your favorite, meatloaf. She sets the table and places his plate down at his seat first, then heads back to make her own. 6 o'clock on the dot. Right on time as usual. Smells delicious. Thanks. Betty, what would I do without you? Well, you would starve, that's for sure, she replies as they share a laugh. Tom finishes his plate first, then lights up a cigarette at the table. You've outdone yourself this time, Betty. That was outstanding, he commends through an exhale of smoke. Betty blushes and bows her head slightly, appreciative of the compliment, but otherwise silent. She stares at Tom, now rolling his sleeves up and undoing the top button of his shirt. He sure works hard to provide for us, she thinks to herself as he takes another long drag of his cigarette. How is she going to do it? Tom decides that after a long day today, nothing would be better than enjoying another smoke after a dinner as delicious as the one he just devoured. He deserves it, he thinks to himself. Waking up early, getting home late for 5 days straight now. He may just pour himself another drink for that matter. Tom looks over at Betty, his hard-working wife who slaves away to ensure that he is always fed and able to enjoy the pleasure of a clean house every day when he gets home from work. Taking another deep inhale to think more clearly, he struggles to decide how he is going to do it. Is there anything else I can get you, Tom? Another drink, maybe? Betty asks, staring across the table at his figure clouded by smoke. No, I think I'm just fine, sweetie. Thanks, though, he answers in an exhausted drawl. Of course, if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know, she replies, patting him on the shoulder and walking into the kitchen. Betty leans against the counter with desperation flooding her senses, knowing she can't survive another day without killing Tom. Finally, she is gone, Tom thinks to himself, now at the bar and pouring another round. He rubs his eyes with his thumb and index finger, lit cigarette hanging from his lips. This drink seems to be even more tasty while he ponders his life's biggest problems. Like, how is he going to kill his wife? Tom didn't take the drink from her, which is disappointing, because it would have been the easiest solution. Betty could not think of a feasible way to poison the meatloaf without even a slight risk of killing herself, which wouldn't be any good either. She pulls out an old and worn pack of cigarettes, hidden behind some pots and pans, those that are reserved for only the most special of occasions. Gas leak and a small spark? No, too messy. Betty is going to be cleaning up after dinner and doing dishes for the better part of the evening. Perhaps Tom could slip into the kitchen quietly and slit her throat from behind. No, too much blood on his hands, literally and metaphorically. What to do? He takes a big sip of bourbon, seeking for the answers to this great mystery at the bottom of his glass. Honey, I'm sorry to disturb you, but could you give me a hand in the kitchen? It will only take a minute, she summons from the doorway. Sure thing. How could I say no after being treated to my favorite meal? Tom replies, lumbering out of his armchair. It sounds crazy, but I was removing my wedding ring so it wouldn't get damaged while cleaning, and oh, clumsy me. It slipped out my hand and landed in the toaster. But I figured that the fork there on the counter would be able to hook it easily. I've been doing dishes and my hands are all wrinkled. Tom glances at Betty suspiciously, but this could be the moment he has been waiting for, gift-wrapped and handed to him without her knowing a thing. He picks up the fork and prepares to make his final move, Although maybe if someone finds her ring in the toaster, it could lead to bothersome questions later. Okay, just grab the ring and stab her while she is distracted putting it on. Betty grins and nods at Tom as he picks up the fork. Tom, please, I need to get back to my chores, and I would feel much better if I could put my ring away in a safe place. Tom moves toward the toaster with Betty following just behind him. Betty, you left the toaster plugged in. My goodness, where is my head tonight? I'm so sorry, Tom. You just unplug it and I will get back to my dishes. Be a dear and put the ring away when you're done. Betty turns and plunges both arms into the massive sink filled with soapy water. Too close of a call. What if Tom suspects her now? Tom stares at Betty's back as she is now lost in her own world again. He reaches to unplug the toaster, which is, so coincidentally plugged in next to the sink. What if he gives her a bit of clumsiness in return and knocks the toaster into the sink water while trying to unplug it? Tom elbows it sharply, then turns quickly to get a good view of the electrocution, only to see Betty scurrying out of the room. Where in the world could she be going now? Think on your feet. Go after the cigarettes? No, that would take too much time. And what are the odds he picks the one that would probably look funny after being tampered with? Betty dries off the knife she was washing in the sink and hides it in her apron pocket. Dear, is everything all right? Tom asks while walking into the living room, hiding a knife of his own. He takes slow and deliberate steps so as not to arouse suspicion from his wife. I'm fine, honey. I just think I'm going to head to bed, she replies with her back against the hallway wall, knife raised in case Tom rushes around the corner unexpectedly. Don't worry about the mess. I'll feel better after some rest and everything will get taken care of then. Okay, Betty, feel better. Tom silently rushes up to the wall she was hiding behind and takes a large slash around it, stabbing the knife into the center of a picture frame and knocking several of them down. He hears the shower turn on from their bedroom, buying at least a few minutes to think. She's in the shower. Maybe she could drown. No. How could she possibly drown in the shower? Think, Tom. How did we get into such a predicament? Tom was supposed to be dead the moment he came home. At least the shower and nap will buy some time to regroup and adjust the plan. Maybe it would be best to fake sleeping for a few hours until Tom goes to bed and do it then. Oh, perfect. Tom is already in bed now. I can murder him without him ever knowing. Tom lays in bed, still as a cadaver, and pretending to sleep so Betty will lay down and allow him to finish this charade. Oh good, she is out of the shower and coming to bed now. This will be over in no time. A simple suffocation should be quite effective, although Tom feels himself having second thoughts. On one hand, Betty has to be murdered, but on the other, who will make meatloaf now? Certainly, Tom thinks, there is nobody alive that could possibly make a meatloaf as good as Betty's. Feeling his stomach contracting and nearly about to growl while thinking of meatloaf, a pillow smothers Tom's face and he is pinned down from both sides of his head with a body sitting on his chest. Frantically thrashing about the bed, Betty underestimates Tom's strength and is unable to hold the pillow against him firmly enough to do the trick. She panics, yet doubles down on her efforts to finally kill her husband and decides to hold on with every ounce of murderous impulse she has left. Tom fights for breath between extended periods of going without, desperately trying to free himself from this unknown assailant. This couldn't possibly be Betty. There is absolutely no way she would know he wanted to butcher her tonight, is there? At long last, Tom gains a better grip and tosses Betty off the bed, although she is small and agile and disappears before he is able to recover. Tom checks the bedroom for any signs of a would-be murderer, then sneaks into the bathroom and flips the light on in a hurry, yet all he finds is his own face in the mirror. Betty, where are you, sweetheart? Tom walks back to his nightstand and grabs a small knife he hid there back when the events of tonight were but a fantasy. The realization that Betty may have actually been his attacker now weighs heavily on his mind. What on earth did he do to deserve that? The only other option is that Betty never actually came to bed and was murdered elsewhere in the house before the killer came to the bedroom. Except, not a sound was heard. And what are the odds someone broke in to kill her on the exact night Tom finally decided to do the same? He is now sliding along the wall, knife in hand and moving at a speed so slow it makes it unclear whether or not he has moved at all. The house is silent like a graveyard at midnight. No signs of life to be heard by even the most discerning ear. Where is Betty then? Did she flee and escape never to return? That would be awful, Tom thinks to himself. If she got away and he never gets the chance to kill her himself? How foolish. Tom cannot be physically bested. Be smarter. Betty shakily fishes out a cigarette from her hiding place before thinking better of it. There is no doubt Tom would smell the smoke instantly. He who is probably fiending for a drag about now as well. She slides the cigarette back into its pack. Yet in this silent environment, the sound would come off as nails on a chalkboard. Clutching their old wooden baseball bat and slumped down on the floor, Betty is primed to pounce the instant her victim enters the vicinity of the house. In the kitchen, ironically hidden in the place she has spent so much time over their nearly 10-year marriage. How could Tom not think to check for her here? How exciting has this evening been? The type of thrill Betty has been searching for, now only to be finished off with the nightcap of Tom's annihilation. Her bloodlust spills over into a maniacal laugh, which is held inside for fear of being heard. Her husband must be so confused. He probably thinks this is all a massive practical joke. Won't he be surprised? After so much waiting, the top stair finally creaks under the weight of a solid man stepping on it. Following what must be a full minute, the next stair creaks, and then the next after another minute longer. Is Tom sleepwalking or just drunk? You can never be too careful. That's the first thing to remember, Tom reminds himself. He has scoured the entire upstairs floor and has neither found as much as a simple clue nor been ambushed and murdered. Now he makes his way down to the bottom floor, taking each step with extreme caution and waiting to hear something of a giveaway. The knife in his hand is nearly attached to him in fervent anticipation of putting it to good use. There goes the creaking sound of another step conquered underneath his foot. The house remains gridlocked in death-like silence as the two predators unknowingly converge upon each other's positions with grisly intentions. Tom is nearly down the staircase now and headed for the living room, which is bordered by the kitchen where Betty is hiding. Betty, my dear, where did you go? Come on back to bed. You know you need your beauty sleep. Tightening her grip on the baseball bat and feeling something between vitriolic rage and nervous excitement, Betty prepares to expose herself and attack. I've been sleeping for years, honey. That's all our marriage was, a snooze. What do you mean, was? This isn't over yet. Betty nearly jumps out of her skin at Tom's sudden appearance behind her. He crept down the hallway and snuck up on her from the back entrance. Hiding in the kitchen? How ironic. Cooking always was your one redeeming quality. Betty lifts the bat and swings hard at Tom's head. He manages to lift his arm to block the blow, yet still takes partial impact above the right ear. How ironic. Tom can't get himself off the floor. Must be passed out drunk again. Betty steps over Tom's torso, holding her baseball bat out to deliver the final blow as blood drips off the wooden barrel. You must feel some comfort knowing you have already experienced death before on our wedding day, so this is nothing new. She raises the bat high above her head as Tom rapidly sits up and plunges his knife into her stomach with a final burst of adrenaline. Betty drops to her knees, lost in the shock of feeling victory slip through her fingertips, before ripping the dagger from her abdomen and plunging it into Tom's stomach, in the same location he stabbed her. They collapse together on the floor in a defeated heap. You know, you're going to bleed out here on this floor, Tom informs her sympathetically. I'm fine with that, as long as you do too, Betty replies. Tom manages to raise his head a few inches off the ground and stares down at his puncture wound with one eye open. Then lowers his head back down into the pool of blood.
That's probably a pretty safe bet.
I've been wanting to do that since the moment I said I'd do. I don't know why, Betty confesses, showing honesty for the first time in 10 years.
Same here. I don't know why either. But I'm glad I finally did,
Tom replies, mirroring Betty's truth-telling.
I'm glad too. It's like a massive weight off my chest.
Best day of my life, she gushes from both her mouth and stomach.
Agreed. Best day of my life.
Tom reaches out and grasps Betty's hand.
I love you.
I love you too.